Hi guys, my name is Trinity, and if you're here, you must be here to talk about books because that's why I'm here, to talk about some books. Today we will be talking about my favorite sci-fi reads. Now, the reason I'm not naming this my favorite series, my favorite standalones, or whatever, is because I'm a baby sci-fi reader. However, this channel has been making some changes, and one of those is that I want to be able to tell you guys what it is that I like to read, because I am one of the few booktubers who is a plot-driven reader. So I wanted to give you guys a chance to find some books that you may like if you yourself are a plot-driven reader. And so I have my favorite 10 sci-fi reads that I have read so far. Okay, so coming in at number 10, we have The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan. And guys, so this is a book that I got from Owlcrate of all places. And when I read my Owlcrate books, I'm expecting like a 4-star book. This landed at a 5-star, and I was blown away, completely blown away by this story. And I'm going to read you the synopsis of this story because I don't want to give you guys any spoilers, and it's really hard to talk about this book without me wanting to talk about some of the things that are spoilers for it. It's been 3 years and 17 days since Cece woke up on the shore of an abandoned island. She has no idea how she came to be marooned or what her life was like before. She has only the rickety house by the sea, the android she built for company, and a single memory. Somewhere beyond the horizon, she has a sister, and it's up to Cece to escape the island and find her. A world away, 16-year-old STEM prodigy Casey is also looking to escape from the science she once believed in and from her home. The eco-cities, Earth's last unpolluted habitats, are meant to be a sanctuary for those from deserving lineages, for those committed to planetary protection, but instead they're populated by people willing to do anything for refuge, even lie. After a series of man-made disasters rock the planet, Casey must decide if she is ready to use science to help humanity, even though it failed the people who mattered most to her. So yes, there's a very big reason that I wanted to read the synopsis and not fully voice my opinions on this book, because most of what I remember of this book is very spoilery. But I found this to be completely engaging, heartbreaking, moving, and that is one of the things that I really love about sci-fi is you can really, really get invested in the story, and it hits home so easily because it's where we may be in the next few years, in the next 50 years, however long. But I really, really enjoyed this, and I think the relationships in here are mind-bendingly good. So, and like the way the plot unfolds, you're just not prepared for what's coming. You're just not. There's no way you can be. But I absolutely adored this book. At number 9 is a book I can't seem to figure out what I did with. I've been looking for it for like a year. I think it got lost in the move, but that would be Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Now, this is a book that I read when I was a teenager, but also reread last year. And it's very interesting to me because I read this book as a teenager, and one of the staples of my life, the way I live my life, is I want to know why people believe what they believe. Like, it's always been a thing that I want to know. Not because I want to judge, but just because I want to know, like, what is it that makes you believe what you believe? And Brave New World addresses this question. I didn't realize how much it had actually impacted my life until I reread it. But I absolutely adore it, and I know it's a classic, so you guys probably know what it's about. But let me just say that this is a story that will stick with you. Like I said, I was 14 or something when I read it again last year, only to realize how much it had affected me, how much it had changed my perspective on life, and I still adore it. I still love it. Next would be Red Rising, and yes, I'm holding up Golden Sun because I actually don't like Red Rising, but I do love the rest of the trilogy. Golden Sun and Morning Star were 5-star reads for me. They were absolutely fantastic. And I will tell you why. Red Rising is a very character-driven novel, and I am not a character-driven reader. Golden Sun, it has a lot of plot, as does Morning Star, and it moves. Even though these are still character-driven stories, there is enough plot that I am 100% completely satisfied. And Darrow is probably one of my favorite characters that I've read. He is fantastic to follow. He is a broken man through most of the trilogy, but I just love watching him try to conquer the world, conquer the universe, right the wrongs of the past. And it is very, very intriguing and very, very heartwarming and heart-achingly good. And be ready, because every single one of these books ends on a cliffhanger. So if you intend to read Red Rising, just pick up the whole trilogy because you're gonna need it. I cannot talk about sci-fi without mentioning this trilogy, even though it's young adult. I don't care because this has one of the most interesting synopses I've ever heard. And this is Scythe by Neal Shusterman. It is a trilogy. And in this world, people no longer die. It's not a thing because medical advances have superseded death. You don't have to worry about it. Enter the Scythes. These are people who are built to be like reapers, like what you see on the cover. And they decide who dies because the world now is facing overpopulation and people have to die because people still keep being born. And the Scythes, this follows the Scythes, the people who enact this act. And it follows two characters who are undergoing training and what it's like to be a Scythe and the decisions that you have to make as a Scythe and how this affects the world that they live in, how they're viewed. It's very, very interesting. And in my opinion, the series only gets better. I've heard a lot of criticism for the toll. I don't agree, but I really, really enjoy this trilogy. Next is a book that I listened to, and that would be Nofk Gloss by Essa Hansen. Now, this is another recent read for me. A lot of these will be, like I said, I've only been reading sci-fi for a year now, so. But this was if you could combine. Now, this is something I've heard. If you could combine Becky Chambers' Long Way to a Small and Angry Planet and Red Rising and mush them together, you would have Nofk Gloss. And there are a lot of elements of Red Rising in Nofk Gloss, transformation being a huge one that they do. But there's a lot of found family. This has a plot that is breakneck, which Golden Sun is also that way. But I absolutely adored this book. And it's very complex as well, so that makes it a little difficult to talk about. But we are dealing with a young boy who is raised on a planet as a slave. Slavers have come in and decided to feed the slaves to these Nophek creatures who contain a substance in their brain called gloss. And the gloss powers many elements of this universe, and it is highly sought after. So anyone who owns Nopheks is very wealthy because they can provide the gloss that the universe needs. And our main character ends up getting rescued and whisked away to try and get his revenge for what happened to his family on this planet. It is such an intriguing page turner. I read this chonker of a novel in 2 days. I was supposed to be reading it with my buddy Scott, and I feel like I kind of bailed because I just couldn't stop reading it. And so he was like, wait, what? You already finished? I was like, oh yeah, it was really good. It was really, really good. All right, next is a very divisive novel. People either love this novel or they hate it. There's pretty much no in between. That would be To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. I have 1 or 2 words for you. Audiobook. Pick up the audiobook. I loved this novel. Now, one of the main criticisms of this novel is it reads like Mass Effect. That's why I love it. It reads like a Mass Effect game. Add to that, the audiobook is voiced by none other than Jennifer Hale, Commander Shepard herself. So this had a lot of nostalgia for me because it read like a Mass Effect game plays. Jennifer Hale was the narrator. But I really liked the way this story moved. It was very interesting to me because we talk about pacing a lot when we review books, and the beginning of this book, a lot of people say it drags, but I feel like that was intentional because our main character is living a very mundane life, and it reads very mundane. Like, it just reads that way. And when the excitement picks up, the pacing of the novel picks up as well, and you feel like you're just thrown into what's going on. So it feels like you're going through what the character is going through. And I felt like that was quite genius to pull off. And when things slowed down, the pacing slowed down. So I felt very, very intentional to write it that way. A lot of people don't enjoy that aspect of this, but I thought it was quite amazing, and I highly, highly recommend the audiobook because Jennifer Hale does an amazing, amazing job. Next is another recent read for me, and that would be Axios End by Lindsay Ellis. Now, let me talk to you guys a little bit about why this is coming up. I have found a new favorite trope, and that is aliens as cinnamon rolls, and I can't get past it. And this book features that trope. I love it. In this novel, we are dealing with a girl whose father has become this huge conspiracy nut, and part of the conspiracy is he believes that aliens exist and that the US government is hiding it. So he escapes, and his daughter is left to deal with the aftermath of her conspiracy nut father. Now, her family does work in the US government, so this takes a lot of really fun twists and turns, and she has to deal with the fact that her dad might have been right. So very, very good, very cute. And I say cute, I really like the relationship here between the daughter and the alien that we encounter. So I enjoyed this a lot. Now for what used to be my favorite read, sci-fi read, The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. When I first started reading sci-fi, it was kind of based on the fact that I love Mass Effect, and there were a couple of blogs that did, if you like Mass Effect, read these books. This was on one of them, and I have to say, I still love this book. Even though I've read a lot of sci-fi since then, I still really love this book. Our main character, Kara, she is one of the few people who can traverse the space between worlds, and we are dealing with alternate universes. We are dealing with, there are 300 some odd planets that we've discovered just like ours in these alternate realms. However, they have found if your doppelganger exists on that planet and you try to go to that planet, you will die. A very, very horrible death. Kara is alive on only 7 of them. So she is the traverser that is chosen to venture off to these places. And the story becomes very, very much not what you expect very quickly. And as the story unfolds, it is so good. And again, I'm a plot-driven reader, and the plot of this book is absolutely fantastic. There's also a sapphic relationship here, which is actually pretty cute. And the way it plays out, you're just kind of rooting for them because a lot has happened. A lot has happened, and a lot continues to happen. So I absolutely love The Space Between Worlds, and I highly recommend it. Okay, number 2 will be a book that you guys have seen recently, and that is Velocity Weapon by Megan O'Keefe. Sanda is a new favorite character of mine. That I cannot say that enough, because there's actually a line in here that I don't really want to say on YouTube, but it's actually something I've written for a character before. When I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness, I love this already. But I just connected with Sanda so much. She's so cheeky and doesn't care what anybody thinks about her, and she will let you know that. But she is a captain on a spaceship. However, she wakes up on a spaceship that is not hers, missing a leg, not knowing what's going on, and an AI for a companion. That's it. The AI starts to talk to her. She tries to figure out for herself what has actually happened, and her and the AI start trying to figure out how to fix things. And the other perspective in here is her brother, who is a high-ranking politico in their world, and he is trying to figure out what happened to his sister. So this is a story of both of them trying to get back to each other, but there is a lot going on in these novels. These are very complex. The plot of it is very complex, and this is not a plot you will get lost trying to follow. This is actually one that gets very well laid out for you, and it's still surprising. Like, it still will shock you what is actually happening in this book. And so take everything with a grain of salt when you start reading it, because this is just a fantastic plot, and I absolutely adore it. And I have the rest of the trilogy, so I'm hoping that I can tell you whether or not this is actually my favorite series moving forward. All right, and finally we have Project Hail Mary. You guys saw that coming a mile away because I can't stop talking about it. I absolutely love Project Hail Mary. It is better than The Martian by far. So in Project Hail Mary, we are following a guy named Ryland Grace, who is a science teacher. However, he wakes up on a ship and his crew is dead. He doesn't really know what's going on, and everyone's sitting around going, everyone being Ryland Grace and the reader, because you're like, what's happening? What is this? And it's told via flashbacks. So that is a criticism I've heard. A lot of people can't follow the flashbacks coming back to the spaceship and going back to the flashbacks all that stuff. That doesn't bother me. But we start to learn that Ryland Grace has been sent on a mission to save the world. The main reason that I love this book so much, I can't even talk about because it is spoilery. But I will say that this has the best bromance in fiction, bar none, and I loved it so much. The pacing of Project Hail Mary is better than The Martian. The info dumping that was done in The Martian is not done so heavily in Project Hail Mary, so we're not getting a whole lot of scientific information thrown at us all at once. And the way that Ryland Grace thinks is interesting and entertaining. And so I think that Project Hail Mary is going to be Weir's top-notch, can't top it book. And I'm actually afraid that the Pariah might not beat it this year. And the Project Hail Mary is going to remain my favorite book of the year. All right, that is it for me today. Like, subscribe, do all the fun things, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.